2013 Ford Fusion with the 2.5 4-cylinder. Today we're going to be replacing the driver's side CV axle and CV axle seal. Let's get to it. Alright, first step will be to remove the tire, but of course the lug nuts are swollen. It's a 19 millimeter. And obviously I would recommend replacing the lug nuts after having to go through this pool. CV axle nut is a 32 millimeter. Go ahead and check that for play. Got a nice amount of play, that's good. And the reason we check for play with the CV axle is to make sure that the CV axle is not seized inside of the front wheel bearing hub, because if that happens, that can be a real pain. If it is, and you can't push this in and out like this freely, then you can either put your nut on a couple turns and tap it with a hammer to try to break it loose, or get yourself a punch and hit the punch right in that center hole right there. That's actually why that hole is there, is for a punch. But as long as everything else is going the way it's supposed to, you'll be at this point. It's an 18 millimeter. Go ahead and grab some channel locks to hold the back end of that bolt, and you can pull it straight out. Next, we'll get a decent sized hammer. We're going to hammer down on this lower control arm to separate it from the lower ball joint, or to separate the lower ball joint from the steering knuckle. Sometimes if it gets stuck, you can put a pry bar right inside of that slot where that bolt was squeezing onto the lower control arm or the lower ball joint, and give it a little bit of a pry, try to squeeze it open. Got some play, which means it is broken loose. Alright, as you can see, it's almost out, but it just won't quite clear it. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this lower arm, this lower control arm bolt. It's a 21 millimeter. Alright, and after removing this bolt to allow the lower control arm to have a little bit more play in the back end, there we go. And go ahead and pull that out like so. And the only thing left to do is to remove the CV axle from the side of the transmission. In order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and remove this lower cover. It's held in with these little torque bolts. I think they're like T30s, but they're not in that tight. I usually just take them out by hand. Missing a couple. Yuck. This car is disgusting. Let's come in right here with the pry bar. Get a nice seat in that. There we go. It's broken loose from the transmission. I still need to wiggle it out a little bit, but as far as ready to remove, the CV axle is good to go. And there's our CV axle seal right here. Before you remove that, make sure that your CV axle seal that you have is the correct one. I wish my tripod was just a little bit taller. Looks like that's the best shot I'm going to be able to get. We got our new CV axle seal, and here's, I'm thinking that that's the part number right there, 710709. It's from National Oil Seal. What you need to do is you need to get right in that metal rim right there, and then just start working your way around. And with that, the old seal is removed. Get yourself a can of brake clean. Spray around where that CV axle is going to be sealing. Make sure it's nice and clean. Try not to get too much of the brake clean in there. Let that sit for a good 5 minutes to let that stuff evaporate out, and you'll be good to go. And we're back. Go ahead and start this new seal. Place it up just like so. I come in here with a rubber mallet, and I cannot stress this enough. We're just going to gently tap around. You know, just kind of let it seal itself. You don't need to force it. You're just kind of giving it the momentum it needs. Using our rubber mallet that I was just using, we're going to place that at the top, like so. We're just going to tap the back of it with another hammer. It's not that it's being uncooperative, it's just hard to get it from that angle. And when it's done, you should have a nice even seal all around. It should be nice and flush. And we've got our new CV axle ready to go in from the Ford Motor Company. Make sure that this is aligned properly. As always, force nothing. Let it do what it wants to do. And once you get it to this point, go ahead and get that CV axle nut. Spit it on a couple turns. Get the CV axle as straight as possible. And give it a couple taps to seat it into the transmission. There you go. Go ahead. Our CV axle into the steering knuckle. I think I might actually start this bolt into the lower control arm first. Just give that a couple turns. I know it started up. That way now it's got the tension to slide that control arm or ball joint back into place. Boom, baby. I know you can do it. I believe in you. Yeah. Get our nut and bolt. Put your CV axle nut on, put it down, put the rim and tire back on, put your weather guard back up, and you're pretty much done. That's all there is to it. I knew you could do it. I didn't doubt you for a second. You got it. Anyway, if this video helped you out, leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see y'all next time.